Hey guys, welcome back to another model showcase. Today we are going to be looking at my oldest, largest, and favorite army, Orcs and Goblins. Back when I was first getting into Warhammer in late 6th edition, early 7th edition, Orcs and Goblins were the guys that I was most interested in. They're just fun. I love how silly and random they are. My first kit was the Battle for Skull Pass, which the number of goblins that you can field is just so, it was so appealing to me. So, I have a fair number of these models painted. All of these I painted at one time or another in my life. So yeah, let's just get into it. This first guy, he's a black orc, obviously. He's like I want to say he's like a 6th or 7th edition metal cast. Black orc. This guy was probably the first model I painted when I started getting back into painting, in like late high school. So you can see I just slapped on some Mechrite red or something. I can't remember what it was called, whatever the red was that came in the starter paint set, onto his blades, his blood. You can see the flesh tone used for the leather straps in his armor. I didn't have access to that many paints when I painted this guy, hence why he looks a little silly. This guy is 4th edition, I think, plastic cast, black orc. Also, you can see how much the black orcs have changed over their course. You'll also see the most recent casts for black orcs. Painted this guy after having been back into painting for a while. So you can see I chose more appropriate colors for things. And I think in general my ability is greater. As with the wood elves, they're painted to basically tabletop quality. I'm not picking out the details in his medallions or whatever. Just painting to a standard that I think is appropriate. And I think he looks great. So this guy is what the contemporary or the most recent black orcs look like. They are intense looking. I decided that I would do the new guys because they have so much open plate armor that I would actually do these guys in black and then pick out details in red. And then I did brass, I think, for his chainmail on his back. This is another guy that I'm quite happy with. I really like how the standard came out, actually. I picked out the little notches in the standard with it used to be called gunmetal, whatever the lead belcher. And I think that makes the gashes look really cool, and they stand out a lot more. This is probably the model I'm most proud of. I play this as an orc boar chariot. In reality, with. I don't know how I ended up with this Duskor Chariot. I don't have the models that are intended to ride it. I don't have the Ungors or Bestigors or whatever they are that are supposed to be in the chariot. So, I liked the sculpt a lot. I like the way that the boars look. So I used it. The orcs actually fit into the Duskor Chariot better, in my opinion, than they do into the normal boar chariot. The reason why I'm so proud of this model is because it is the first large model that I finished. It was the first, like, multi-session project that I finished. I don't paint very fast. I don't know if it's just my style or if it's a lack of skill or what, but I don't paint very fast. So this guy probably took me a week. But I'm the base doesn't look that great. One of these days I'm gonna have to try to fix it up a little bit. I stupidly didn't paint it before I flocked it, so you can see the primer color just around the edge at the back and under the boars. So someday I'm gonna fix that up. This next guy is an old metal cast Fanatic, Night Goblin Fanatic. He's 5th, I think. Unfortunately, the metal ball that he had on the end of his chain snapped off, and the super glue would not set. It did not matter what I did. I could not get the super glue to set. I tried bolstering it. I tried using different types of glue. I just couldn't get it to set. So what I did was I took a ball from the 8th edition plastic kit, which the way that the 8th edition Fanatics are assembled is that they have a chain with a small ball on the end, so you can leave that if you want. But what they then also give you are these clamshell style, which you can kind of see the seam in both of the pictures, and they have a hole in the base, and so the idea is you glue the pieces, the clamshell pieces that you want around the smaller ball, and it fits. So I took advantage of the fact that it has this hole that's already set in the mold and just packed that hole full of super glue and stuck the end of the chain in, and it worked. And I think it actually turned out really well. I think it's an appropriate and to scale ball for this guy. The one he was supposed to be swinging was actually a bit smaller. I think this fits him better. So this you may recognize as Grimgore Ironhide. I don't know why I painted his tongue that color. I don't know why I thought that was what I should be doing for him. This was the first character I'd ever painted. So I put a lot of work into it, and it doesn't show that much because I didn't end up putting that much detail into it because I wanted the kind of oiled steel look with which, believe it or not, Null oil is actually really useful for that. You can see the way that it pools around the rivets in his armor, and the cracks and stuff, and I think that gives it a great worn but taken care of look that I think is really cool. I went fucking ham with the blood for the blood god. You can see his axe is covered in it, and the Reichsguard Knight or whatever that is that he's holding the head of. That guy, the stump is, I should have taken a picture of it. I spent a lot of time making sure that you could see the esophagus and the spine in this dude's severed head, and then I covered it in blood for the blood god, and the effect's actually really cool in my opinion. And he's standing on some Empire shields. I think they're Empire shields. They might be Bretonia. I don't think they're Bretonia though. This guy is just an archer. Looking at him now, I'm realizing he's not actually finished. But I wanted to put him in here because he is an old model. He's one that he's from the original Battle for Skull Pass box that I got when I was a kid. So he's been with me for a while. I've had him painted like this for a while. This is one of those models that, even though it's unfinished, I probably won't go back and finish it, because I get to look at it and be reminded of when I was a kid painting and how far I've come in terms of my skill and just in life in general. It's a great piece of memorabilia. Doesn't seem like the right word. It's like a relic, and I want to keep it in the state that it's in. So this guy is just a night goblin spearman. I painted 8 of these guys like this just in a batch. I think what I ended up with was a pretty nice kind of savage look with the bronze-tipped spears and how damaged. You can't really see it at this angle, but I brushed, dry brushed silver over the fronts of the shields to give them that same sort of worn look that I was talking about. So I like these guys. They look really good ranked up. This next guy is another older painted model from the same Battle for Skull Pass box. He's the unit champion, I think, for the spearmen. The guy with the bow is the unit champion for the bowmen, for the Night Goblin archers. And this guy is the champion for the standard Night Goblins. Another one that I'm not gonna touch him. He is what he is. He tells a story. This guy is the general from the Night Goblin general from the Battle for Skull Pass box. Another one that I painted when I was quite a bit younger. I like the idea of the blue squig. I think it's pretty interesting. It didn't occur to me when I was a kid, or when I painted this, whenever I painted this, probably in high school, the effect of the red hood on the white robes, and I didn't realize I was basically painting Ku Klux Klan goblin. Obviously I didn't intend for that, but again, he's gonna remain unchanged. I like him. He's cute. His squig is cute. He's very funny. He's very sloppily painted. So this guy is the musician for a unit of Night Goblins. Unlike, say, well, in particular, dwarves is who I can think of off the top of my head, who, their musicians and their standard bearers are very specific to the unit that they're in, especially their standard bearers. You know, they'll have pistols for the handgunners, or like a big crossbow on it, or hammers, or whatever. Night goblins don't fuck around with that. They just need somebody to ring a bell. So that's this guy's job, is he rings a gong. There's a whole bunch of flocking on him. I'm not sure why that happened, but he goes really quite well with my spearman, which you'll see ranked up right here. So I put the champion there in the middle. He obviously stands out like a sore thumb, but he's cute. And you can see more of the effect of the worn shields. And I think using silver for the mallet for the musician makes him stand out too, which is not that important, but it is nice to be able to pick out your command without having to look too hard. I don't have a standard bearer painted up for these guys. To be honest, I'm not even sure where they are. I remember growing up, I always thought that the shaman that came in the box, the little guy who's waving a stick with like a robe with a skull in it, he's waving that. I thought he was supposed to be a standard bearer. He's not. He's a shaman. He's got his little pouch of magic mushrooms so that he can get the extra D6 to cast a spell. I recently completely opened up and assembled another Battle for Skullpass box that a friend had gotten at some point and had never touched, basically. So I had the wonderful opportunity to be able to double, basically, my night goblins, or nearly double, and I cannot recall finding anybody who I thought was for sure a standard bearer other than the guy who's got the really big banner, who's very clearly a battle standard bearer. This guy is one of my orc boys. He is a 5th edition vintage plastic manufacturer. Even just looking at, now that I think about it, I think that the plastic black orcs, the old one, they may have been 3rd edition. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's what they were, because you can tell just how different they are from these guys, who are old also, but obviously not as old. They're monobows guys. They came from whatever. I think the 5th edition starter set was Empire and Orcs and Goblins. I could be wrong about that, but I think it was Empire versus Orcs. And I think that's where these guys came from. So I decided that my orcs were going to be blue. There, you see his hat is blue, and his little kilt is blue. And I just thought that was a good way to sort of unify the unit without making it too muddy, I guess, because obviously they're all green. And this is all of my boys ranked up. Some of them are not quite the same, as you can tell. The guy second from the right in the front rank was the first one I did with the blue idea in mind. I spent a lot more time on him. Obviously, he's got red eyes, which is I don't really want to fuck around with that level of detail. It just is not satisfying enough for how frustrating it is. He was painted before I had washes, so he never got a wash of any kind, so he is slightly brighter than the others and less shiny. The guy on the far right is the only model in here that I didn't paint. That was painted by my stepsister, she had a small contingent of these guys when her brother and my stepbrother and stepdad started getting into this. You know, it was one of those things like, oh, they're getting into it, maybe I'll try it. And she never really got that into it, but it did mean that I ended up inheriting her awesome 5th edition mono bows guys. Maybe they're 6th edition, I don't know. Anyways, that guy was not painted by me. And as you can see in the middle, that is this guy, who is an orc shaman. He's a normal shaman, not a savage orc. He's got like an actual sword. He's old. He's metal. 4th edition, maybe. Maybe the same vintage, probably the same vintage as the Black Orcs. His getup was so obviously death magic to me, or lore of vampirism or something, not Big Wah, which tells me this is from before that was a thing, which I believe is something that happened. I think, you know, this is totally off the top of my head, just from memory, what I remember reading. The race-specific lores didn't come until quite a bit later in development of the game. I've got my 5th edition Orcs and Goblins book in front of me, and it doesn't mention anything about a specific orcish magical lore. Sorry, I had a weird thing with my microphone, sorry about that. They had their own magical items, but I think back when you used the magic decks, magic was quite a bit different. So you could have an orc like this guy who would be casting death magic or lore of shadow or something, you know. So that's why he looks like he belongs in a vampire count's army. So I painted him appropriately, purple and blue and darker colors. I think he looks great. I really like him. So these guys are the only 2 savage orcs I've painted up so far. The guy on the left I painted at the end of high school, I think. Again, before I had access to the range of paints that I do now. So, you know, just straight white for bone. As opposed to the other guy who I actually used a bone color for bone. The musician is as shiny as he is because I used Nuln Oil as a wash on him because I had just gotten the Nuln Oil, so it was the first time I was using it and I wanted to use it. And he ended up quite shiny. So he'll just be my shiny orc. I spent quite a bit of time on the guy on the right, the standard bearer. Just because there's so many little details in that standard. I decided I wanted all of my savage orcs to be red, sort of inspired by Warcraft and the idea that orcs are green due to corruption. So, you know, in my head, I'm thinking orcs turn green when they become civilized, quote-unquote civilized. And I liked the idea of actually painting their tattoos on them, which is why they have, like, avatar arrows on their foreheads and all these lines on their backs and whatever. So those are their tattoos that give them their 6-up ward save. This is a Finecast bolt thrower, which is why everything is out of whack. the cranks, I don't even know what they are on the back, are all bent, and the the bow itself is crooked, and the big plate in the front is crooked. Don't buy Finecast. This, I don't regret buying it because it's the only orc war machine I have, actually. I've always wanted to get a Doom Diver and a Rock Lava. Actually, that's not true. I have a Rock Lava. I haven't painted it. It's also Finecast. Don't buy Finecast. Finecast is shit. But I'm happy with it because it's the only artillery piece that I have painted. And I think I did a pretty good job with it. I like the little mushrooms. That green is little toxic mushrooms or something that are growing on the side. These guys are Squig hoppers. Also Finecast. This is the only circumstance in which I would say Finecast is okay. It's when the cast is so old that they do not produce it in anything else. You cannot buy metal, you cannot buy plastic. They exist only in Finecast, at least as far as I can tell. Because they have not been updated since 5th edition. Or maybe earlier. These guys are ancient. Presumably because they're not competitive. They sure as shit were not competitive in 5th edition, where they could move randomly, like in a random direction, if you roll doubles. I can't remember if that's still true. These guys you play because they're fun. You don't play them because they're good, in my opinion. I really like homeboy on the left coming in with his wooden sword, because, you know, the weapon of the goblin is not really the reason you're using these guys. It's the big bitey squig they're riding on. I also think the right hand squig is so weird. He's so weird, because I mean, that's just a guy's face, right? That thing just has a human face. The goblin looks like the squig. And also, he has a rat tail that I painted blue. So these guys are fun. This is one of 3 trolls that I have painted up. This guy I painted him a while ago. He's from Battle for Skull Pass. I'm sure you guys are noticing a theme with a lot of these. He's just a troll. He's got a character name in the Battle for Skull Pass rulebook, which is kind of funny. But yeah, he's just a troll. His sculpt is, I think, an homage to this sculpt, which is a troll from quite a bit earlier. He's a metal troll. Similar pose. Obviously, the trolls look less goofy now than they used to. This guy was a pleasant surprise for me. I painted him yellow, thinking I was gonna do I don't know what with him. And then I didn't have an appropriate wash, so I washed him in green. And he ended out looking like this, and I think it turned out great. I sort of unintentionally did a contrast paint technique on him, I guess. I like his red eye. One of the few times I actually said, okay, I'm going to paint the eye. And that is all I have to show you. That is everything I have painted for Orcs and Goblins. despite the fact, well, it's not everything, but it's most everything. Despite the fact that this is the army I've had the longest. Like I said, I don't paint very fast. So, you know, I had to stop buying miniatures because I was so outpacing the rate at which I could paint them. So I've spent the last 3 years probably not buying any miniatures, despite quadrupling my collection in about a year and a half prior to that. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed getting to take a look at some more of my models. My favorite army, my biggest army, my oldest army. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.